On radio in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider, Sports Talk 1050, WTKA, online at WTKA.com. Sam Webb, Mr. Ira Weintraub on the other side, and you know how we do every Thursday, top of the 9 o'clock hour. It is MGoBlog Roundtable time with the MGoBlog crew, starting with the man that started it all at MGoBlog, Mr. Brian Cook. Brian, how you doing this morning? Silent. But we'll come back to Brian. Seth,
I am muted.
Oh, there you
muted
go.
me.
You muted yourself.
I am being censored.
You muted yourself.
No, you did it, Ira.
I clicked the button and said the speaker muted themselves. I could try to mute you.
The First Amendment, Ira Weintraub. I have rights.
All right, Seth Fisher, how you doing this morning?
Where's this Brian mute button? I could definitely use this.
We already got people saying free Brian, free Brian.
Free Brian. Free Estapa. Free the Indy 500.
That is Craig Ross talking. Craig, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. I'm just here to protect you because Brian's been hitting people in the nuts. And so
what are we talking about? What's going on over here?
I served, and the guy stepped into it just hit him. It wasn't.
And he went
fault.
down. He went down like Frazier.
Okay, he did. He was upset, but I was like, bro, if you hadn't done it to yourself. Anyway, speaking of doing it to yourself, 2 pick sixes against Minnesota.
They did. Hey, that's the way to win a tennis match, though. I'm surprised it's not a strategy.
Ryan, you really tried the segue very well. I
Thank you
for it.
Hey, Craig was teeing me up.
Tennis match.
Craig was teeing me up, man. All right, I will make a rough segue here. Yes, pick sixes, 2 of them. They outscored the Minnesota offense. Michigan wins the game 52-10. Mr. Cook. I knew it would be bad. I guess I didn't have Michigan winning by scoring 50 points, but just shows you that this team is taking a step every week, looks like.
Yeah, and I mentioned that in my game column, is it felt like Michigan is already at this level, but they still have another gear they can hit, right? So you're seeing Derek Moore kind of round into form. You see Mason Graham get back, and he's got a club on his hand. He's playing amazing, but he's still a true sophomore. You have some questions in the secondary that are getting resolved over time. It feels like Michigan is already playing like one of the best teams in the country, possibly the best team, and there's still runway for them to get better. We saw them get better when they put in Henderson at left tackle, which now seems to be the permanent setup, but he's still gelling with his teammates, right? So he's going to take a bit of time to get to where he's going to be at by the end of the year. You still have, the running backs kind of feeling it out, and yeah, it feels like they're expanding the playbook every week. They're getting a little better. They're getting a little better. They're getting a little better.
Yeah, defense still has like the one thing that's not working every single week, but this one was interesting. They were playing the run with too few guys. So like when you looked at those zone stretches that were killing them, right? I took a look at those this week, and it turns out they have 2 defensive tackles and a linebacker in charge of 4 blockers and a running back. And it's like, why are you playing this way? Right? They have 2 safeties back. They have all these guys on the edge. They fix some things later. But if you go back to the Ohio State game last year, they played that way against them, where they say, like, look, our defensive tackles are so good. Mason Graham is just destroying them. Kenneth Grant is unblockable. Chris Jenkins is, one of the best players in the country. Why don't we just let those guys cook? And if they want to do anything else, it's not going to work. And, Minnesota has some good blockers, and it didn't work against them, but it might work against everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, to be honest, I'm probably wrong, that Rashawn Benny got beat up on some of these outside zones that they were running, but maybe it was just that there weren't enough guys to handle it. I mean, I think that's probably right, but they seem to handle it okay with other constellations. Even Cam Good, who is really becoming a good football player, in my opinion. I mean, he's a plausible guy in the middle of the defense, but there were plays where they were running zone where it felt like there were cutback lanes, partly because I think you're right. They just didn't have enough guys there.
Yeah,
Well, that's
Go ahead.
that's what Minnesota does, right? They RPO you. So there was motion early, and it was clear that Michigan was spending a linebacker trying to prevent Calic Manis from getting easy throws, which seemed to be something that paid off because he never really got in a rhythm.
Right.
5 of 16, 2 pick sixes, never really got to throw an RPO except the one that got knocked down. So there were some things that Michigan needed to do, but I think it's a hallmark of a good team is that when you come out and the other team has something that's working, and then you shut it down after the first drive. Well, was that really a personnel problem, or was that just a tactical issue? For me, it's just a tactical issue that they fixed.
Yeah,
Definitely. Harbaugh talked about alignment. Vance did a really long sort of breakdown of the alignment of their shade. He's like, man, you are taking your nose or your interior guy out of the picture by aligning them in the 2-eye. You're allowing the center a free go on those plays, and the cutback lane is wide open. And so he said, you give them credit just for what you said, Brian. You give them credit for when they see something and it's getting them for a bit, it doesn't get them for the whole game. So what did they have, like 49 yards rushing in the first quarter?
Yeah.
And then it dropped precipitously in the quarters after.
Yeah, they got a 54-yard field goal attempt out of it. That was how it paid off. They got a 54-yard field goal attempt because the other, and they got a few runs on it with when Michigan adjusted and they knew what the adjustment was going to be. But it was really funny. It was like going back to Rich Rod's offense because they're running, zone stretch, and then they do belly on the backside to try to make up for it, and then, it was very Rich Rod 2008.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you saw in coverage though, man, right out the gate, great defensive call that resulted in a pick six. And already if Minnesota thought they had a chance, you inflict that doubt in them right out the chute, guys.
Yeah, and that's something that we've seen against Rutgers and that kind of stuff, where that soft edge has been annoying, right? Where Rutgers is completing 9-yard hitches, and we're like, why are we playing cover 3 off these guys so badly? And so you switch it up, and then Will Johnson masterfully sells the idea that he's cover 3 corner, comes off it, bang, 7-0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We actually ran the same coverage against Rutgers to try to get them to cut that off, and Wallace, the throw was going out of bounds, and Wallace runs through the receiver, and then he picked up a flag for it. But it was the same exact thing. He was stepping in for a pick six, and it's nice to see them get the paid off instead of just having the counter to the thing that we left, just be left that way.
You guys mentioned, or maybe Sam, about the synchronicity with the offensive line being something that's improving and can get better. There was a play where JJ seemed to change the line blocking before while he was at the line of scrimmage or in shotgun, I think. And 73 Henderson then picked up the blitzer on the outside. I think it was a safety blitz perhaps. And then, but they dropped a guy off into coverage, and they brought the middle linebacker too. And Mullings just flattened the dude. Do you remember that play?
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought that was such sweet coordination between the quarterback, the left tackle, and then the running back seeing the Mike blitz, I think. And
yeah, he
pancaked him.
They changed the Mike ID, and it slid the protection. One man to the left, and that was right. Pick it up.
Yep.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
I think Ohio State fans remember that play too, because that was the Loveland sells his out route and then heads upfield and then ends up getting a touchdown on that play.
Well, that was a lot shorter. He sold a 2-yard route that time, and then so he was 15 yards downfield against Ohio State before he broke out and up. So significantly different play there, but we've seen Michigan integrate some razzle dazzle stuff, and that wasn't razzle dazzle per se, but it is man coverage against Colston Loveland, and you're finding a way to exploit that for a touchdown very easily. So I like where most things are going. And like early in the year, we're like, I don't know about this outside zone. I don't know about what they're doing on offense. I don't know about what the tackle situation is. And now it kind of feels like, it's fine. Everything's working. Like they brought the pin and pull back, and it's like, that worked. There was a crack sweep in this game that didn't work, but could have worked.
Yeah, we saw the kitchen sink. I mean, you go from a game a couple weeks ago where they run 15 duos in one game, and the duo is a footnote in this game. I mean, it was more what they ran off a duo. You had the 4th and 1 play to Mullings, you had the pull by JJ in the red zone, but it was they ran it like only a few times, but they ran 15, 16 different run schemes in this game. And it's like, man, you can do all that. You can have that kind of diversity and still execute at a high level. I mean, these dudes, and then have your quarterback be as locked in as he's all the things that they were talking about in the preseason before the season about JJ, recognizing coverages, recognizing pressures, changing protections, all those things we're seeing them on display on a weekly basis now.
Yeah, it's interesting because we started with a game where we ran a lot of outside zone. Now we're seeing no outside zone, or I don't know if there was a single outside zone play in this game.
There was not.
And really not much zone. I mean, this game was mostly gap blocked, I think. I mean, it had to have been 85% gap blocked. I mean, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's an interesting point, and I think it highlights something that is, I don't necessarily know that it's unique to Sharon. I think it's more of it's kind of like a Harbaugh based off, and they are going to change their run scheme game to game based on the type of defense that they see. There's a reason we hadn't seen a pin and pull until this point. They had all those odd stack teams, especially,
right,
that it wasn't necessarily conducive to running pin and pulls. First, even front team, the guys that without a lot of movement up front that they face, and they break the pin and pull out for the first time in 6 weeks. It's like they got all these things in the toolkit, and based on the type of defense they play, they feel like they can pull it out even if they haven't run one in 3 or 4 weeks.
I wonder if they also wanted to show that to Indiana a little bit because, Tom Allen loves to blitz his cornerbacks.
They aren't showing anything to Indiana. This is the worst team on the schedule.
No. I'm going to demur on that one.
Indiana... Is this where you're sticking up for your Bowling Green buddy again? Is that what
yeah.
Wait. Because I would argue that they are not.
Well, wait. Bowling Green beat Georgia Tech last week, didn't they? I think they did.
Miami.
Yeah. And Indiana can play some defense. They played good defense against Ohio State.
Yeah, I know, but Michigan needs 3 points to win this game.
That's true. But they're not a complete meatball defensively. I mean, offensively they can't run the ball, but defense, and I don't think they've got A+ pass game either. In fact, they're probably pretty awful on offense, but defensively they do have some ability, and Allen is a good defensive coach.
Well, I think I caught them running a pin and pull last week. Just one, but it's something where you occasionally see Michigan pull something out once just as a dry run, and then it becomes more prominent in subsequent weeks. So I'm hoping the crack sweep actually is that kind of situation, because Minnesota moved late a lot, and they moved late before this one, so it kind of got blown up for rock, paper, scissors reasons. But we're talking about getting to the edge, and that's something that was very effective early in the Harbaugh era, but has been shelved since. So I figure that given everything that opponents are doing to get inside, because Michigan runs a ton of duo, they run that dive, they are set up to have that be a successful play, because the guy who's trying to get a crack in, that guy's going to be running away from him. He's going to be running to the interior of the defense. So that's going to be pretty easy to get most of the time. So, yeah.
The play, though, that he threw to Colston down the stretch. I mean, one of the things that you love about JJ is, at least to me, I feel like, he will kind of make a mistake and he say, I got you, or a guy will drop a ball and he'll go right back to him. We've seen that a couple of times this year. We saw that in this game, and he almost got coasted and killed on a play. And I was like, you know what? It's the one thing. It's the one maybe play you look at in this game. And you say, all right, that's probably one he wants back. But you just
You're in the red zone. Your tight ends are supposed to
that
do
ball's there. Like he just drops it. Like
yeah, but you got a safety that he didn't budge. Like you look at it on all 22, the safety was like literally sitting there, didn't move at all, just kind of waiting for it and closed on the middle, wasn't open. Point is, that's not my point. My point is that you just knew. I said to whoever I was watching the game at the time, he's gonna get Colston a touchdown now. You watch. He didn't get him a touchdown right there. He got blew up. JJ's gonna get him a touchdown. And JJ came back and got him a touchdown, man. It's just the dude you feel like he's on the level where just he just always is. There's this calm, this certainty about he's gonna have them in the right place. He's gonna make the right play. He might make one or two in a game that he wants back, but compared to the 10 or 12 other quarterbacks make, one or two is nothing. This dude is playing at an exceptionally high level right now.
I just think Michigan needs to recruit more Buddhists or more guys who are into, heavy meditation to keep them.
You know, you can actually take person who doesn't meditate and have them meditate, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Brian.
Well, no, I was just gonna say. So he has 6 incompletions in this game. 3 of them are drops.
Yeah.
And one of them is a play where it's short, it's a fade route, but if Moore comes back to the ball, it's probably PI. Although on that one, he had Roman Wilson screamingly wide open on a drag. So, but we're talking about 1 or 2 events a game where I'm grading him negatively, maybe 3 in this one.
Right.
And that's crazy. It's something that we saw early last year, and then he kind of fell off. But other than the Bowling Green game, he's been locked in all season, and I don't see that changing. So,
and they get him out. He's out the game in the fourth. He's not playing the fourth quarter. I think that's actually, some people think that's are you worried about that? No, man. It's get him out of the game as soon as you possibly can. I love that about this season.
Yeah, there has been a 15-year-long period where Michigan couldn't get a senior starting quarterback healthy to the game. And I know JJ is not a senior, but he's certainly playing like one. And so, this is going to be the first time in a very long time where you're looking at this matchup and you're like, okay, Michigan has a clear advantage at quarterback. Now, we should go back to one thing, and that's the 2 keeps in the red zone where he scores. That's not going to work against better teams. Because I looked at these guys and I looked up their Pro Football Focus. Both of the guys who are trying to tackle literally have a missed tackle rate of 25%. That's not good. So if that happens against even Lathan Ransom, who played horrible against Michigan last year, that's not going to work. So last year they ran a couple of keeps in the red zone and they got blown up because he wasn't able to evade a safety. And I feel like this could be fool's gold. I don't think this is going to be a good idea going forward, because JJ is very fast, but he's not Denard Robinson. He's not a running back who can throw.
Yeah. And speaking of fool's gold, what's not fool's gold is Barner. And, we came into the season thinking Loveland was going to be a great player, and he's certainly going to be an NFL player. But Barner's a better blocker, I think. And Barner is no stiff at catching the ball. Barner's going to play in the NFL. And so it's real to me. That's really been somewhat of a surprise, a really happy occurrence that's accruing. Also, the other Indiana guy we got is Tuttle, who's played pretty well in his backup time. He played very well, I thought, this week. So thanks, Indiana.
Right. All right. So you get out of this game and got to give a shout out to Keon Sabb. He was able to get his first interception. It goes for a touchdown. I mean, these guys, they give up a play at the end of the half, and then they come out and they they shut the passing game completely down in the second half of this game. Wait, Mason Graham. We can't not talk about Mason Graham. coming back in this game and looking unbelievable with a club on his hand, no less. What about number 55?
Oh, he's Mo Hurst now. He is
Yeah.
at that level, like that tackle for loss that where Minnesota's moving the ball and it looks like that outside zone is going to be a problem. He barrels through two dudes and then it's a 4-yard tackle for loss that he did all of himself. The last time we saw that at Michigan was Mo Hurst.
He's Mo Hurst as a sophomore compared to Mo Hurst in his 4th year. And I think he's a stronger run defender. So, I mean, I don't know if I've seen a better interior defensive lineman in my lifetime, and that's long. I mean, Mark Mesner maybe was about the same.
Yeah, Messner was also like technically a tackle. Like his job was more akin to like Aiden Hutchinson in this defense.
So I'm having a hard time thinking of anyone who's played better than Mason Graham at this point.
Well, Hurst is the gold standard since I've been starting.
He is a gold standard.
Yeah. I mean, the way he's grading out is like Hurst. There's not a lot of snaps, so it's like he ends up with a +20, and I go, okay, how many times have I had a +20? And I've had plenty of them. There are a lot of more. Aiden Hutchinson, Mo Hurst has a few too. Brandon Graham got there a bunch of times, but they got there in a lot more snaps usually. So this was just every time he's involved in the play. There was one time where they get him on a stretch where they actually like moved him down a little bit, and it's like not really your fault if you have a double and you get moved down 2 yards and there's no linebacker help coming. Like that's not really on the tackle. And then just the way he's one-handed, right? He only has one hand, and yet he rips a guy past him. Like they think they've got a play on the edge because they've got him out there. They slanted. This is one of the ways they were handling it. And handling those outside zones, they slant. He's out on the edge, and they think, okay, we're going to get this guy. He's a tackle. He just rips this guy one-handed by him and makes the tackle. And it's like, good Lord, man. And then the next play, he does the same exact thing again.
Yeah, that was the freakiest thing I may have seen in a long time. Because my thought, okay, he's probably going to be pretty effective, but that push-pull he has, he's only got one arm. It's not going to work. And then he pulls it out twice. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then the other guy who's flashing is Josiah Stewart.
Yeah.
So Stewart had a pretty rough start to the year, wasn't getting much pressure. But here, I mean, he bull rushes Ariante Irsay into the quarterback for a sack. And you're like, that's just a Minnesota offensive lineman. He's not really that good at pass protecting. According to Pro Football Focus, he entered this game with 3 pressures given up on the season, none of them sacks. And Michigan got him for 2 sacks in this game. Big ups to the Pro Football Focus grader who gave Mason Graham 2 sacks because he had 2 sacks, but then a terrible spot robbed him of his second. I will never forgive the line judge.
There are a lot of them. When I was grading the game, like there's another one where I guess the referee on the other side judge thinks that Brian Cook just served him a tennis ball because he jumps the exact wrong way. And
so let's not get Greg started. It's dangerous.
No, you guys. I think that the comparison with Mo Hurst is really good when you look at Mason's get off. It is tremendous.
Yes.
His off snap quickness combined with his power. He's a bigger dude than Mo was. That's what makes it so impressive is he's moving that quick, and this dude is an absolute rock in the middle. And then he shows you the technique as well. He's down to one hand, but that doesn't mean he can't swim you. And he was breaking out that swim move like it was nothing, and guys couldn't adjust to it. It was impressive to say the least to see a guy come back after a 2-week hiatus with one hand and basically be a wrecker for Michigan out, in his first game back. That was impressive.
There's another one that I got to bring up because we all missed it in the middle of the game where Minnesota's backed up under their own goalpost. I think they're on like the 16 or something and he one arms a guy all the way into the running back. So the running back gets the ball. He's supposed to hop outside after this. And all of a sudden his blocker is literally in his in his legs. and they got a little weird after that, and the run actually got back to the line of scrimmage. But like the job that Mason Graham had done just completely blew up everything they wanted to do. Like that doesn't happen. You don't expect your like right guard, if you start to the left of the quarterback, to all of a sudden be there when you're getting the handoff.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So we will come back on the other side. You'll get a little glimpse of Indiana. I mean, you think Tom Allen would be in trouble if he didn't have a huge buyout? I do. But because his buyout is so huge, I think he's safe for at least another season. His assistants aren't, though, as they have a new OC because they fired their OC they started out with. They fired him and have brought an analyst up. So we'll get into the Hoosiers when we come back on the other side here. MGoBlog Roundtable on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTK, The Ticket.
And we are clear on the radio.
All right.
I don't know how many people you got to stay on the radio by saying, "Hey, we're going to talk about Indiana football."
We don't have to spend that much time on it. Just give them a little.
Have you? I mean, did you guys see? Have you seen any of them? I mean, I saw some of Ohio State, and they played pretty good defense against Ohio State, I thought.
That's the only time I've watched them. They played Louisville tough, surprisingly.
Well, they were down by 14-21, and they drove the ball down into the goal near the goal line.
They've got a couple players on this team. They're not as good as the sum of their parts. So, like, defensively, they're filled with transfers, and all of them don't play with each other very well, which is understandable because they barely, they're all still wearing name tags in practice.
Yeah.
I really like that guy they got from Western Michigan, Andre Carter. I don't know if we haven't done the defensive side yet for Alex's chart, so like I don't know if we're going to star him yet. But they got him. They got Aaron Casey. They have some players. Well, they also have some humongous holes.
They just need to develop some guys that transfer here. Like I would like number 75 for Minnesota, the offensive guard. I mean, will that guy transfer here next year?
Tyler Cooper, he's got one more year. He could be a grad transfer.
Yeah, I mean, did you like him? Because I sure did.
Yeah. I know. I noticed him. He shows up in the charting several times where I just like start naming like, oh, that was number 75. I started mentioning whether it was number 75 or number 71 because number 71 is just terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah. So you have to
Darius Taylor. I take Darius Taylor. Did you see? Jay Fleck kind of making a plea to the donors, like, "Hey, you want us to keep Darius Taylor? You better give up some money." That's the only way we're keeping him.
Yeah.
How about Daniel Jackson?
Daniel Jackson,
that receiver too. Like he's another. He'll be a grad transfer, I think. He's on. Well, he'll be a senior next year. So
there was one guy at Nebraska too, a defensive lineman I liked, Nutmacker, something like that.
Was that the wrestler dude?
Pardon me.
That's the nose tackle for Nebraska.
Yeah.
He's too Nebraska to leave Nebraska. He was like the wrestling champion of South Dakota.
Because we're going to need another inside guy next year. Maybe he could transfer. So
that's what you got to do. You got to look at these teams for who you might be at a grab. As sad as that is to say, but that's the way the cookie crumbles these days.
That's the way it is.
Yeah, you're poaching. So, how much of that Ohio State Maryland game did you guys watch?
Most of it.
Yeah.
Gave it away. Oh my God! They let those dudes off.
Oh my God! Yeah, they did. But Chip Trayanum rushing for 3 yards a carry on 20 carries against Maryland, and I'm just like, we're gonna beat the hide off these guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure their offensive line is very good in the run game.
Well, they're not.
Yeah.
My one concern is that some of the smarter football guys who are Ohio State fans I follow on Twitter are like, stretch to the boundary again. Hooray. Why don't we just put this all in the dumper and start something else? So I think that there is some chance that, Maryland is a come to Jesus for them and they dump that out of their game because they can't run
in about 20 seconds, guys.
And they run a bunch of stuff that they're more effective at. I think that's a strong possibility.
Well, to me, their offense is throw it up to Marvin Harrison. Throw it up to Marvin. That's their best play.
Well, and what's wrong with that?
And Maryland's like, let's not cover this guy.
In 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, online at WTK.com. Sam Webb, Mr. Ira Weintraub on the other side. Before we get back to the roundtable, want to let you know if you're ready to get on board with Brighton Ford, they are the place with the great deals to be had with our friends over there who take care of business all the time, led by John Cuter. They'll turn you on to the 2023 Bronco Sport Big Bend. $274 a month, $3,500 down, or $399 a month with $500 down. The 2023 Explorer XLT Max, $408 a month with $3,500 down, or $533 a month with $500 down. And last but not least, 2023 F-150, $274 a month, $3,500 down, or $402 a month with $500 down. For those and other great deals, get on board with Brighton Ford by going to BrightonFord.com. Call 1-800-NEW-FORD or make it out to the lot at 8240 West Grand River Avenue in Brighton, Michigan. So, taking on the Indiana Hoosiers, there was a time in the not too distant past, fellas, where you felt like this is going to be a track meet because Indiana had one of the most potent offenses in the Big Ten. They can never really put it all together, but they could certainly move the ball up and down the field, even against the better teams. That is no longer the case. I'll start with you, Craig Ross, because you seem to have a higher regard for the Hoosiers than most. So what is the reason?
I don't want to say high regard.
I didn't say high. I didn't say high. I said
Indiana
higher.
Hoosiers fan Craig Ross.
Yeah. Well, I think they are capable of playing good defense. They played good defense against Louisville. They played good defense against Ohio State. Now, it's true they didn't play very good defense against Akron. And it's true that Maryland put up 164 points or whatever it was, but that was still, they got killed by Maryland. But they did play well against the two really good teams they played against on defense. Now they can't move the ball. Their quarterback can't really run it. They don't have any kind of a coherent run game. Their pass game is sketchy. So they're a terrible offense with a maybe okay defense. So it's probably not going to be good enough to win. But think of these things. A, it might rain on Saturday. B, it could be windy on Saturday. C, we know for a fact there's going to be an eclipse during the middle of the game on Saturday. This is a fact. And so, there's weird stuff. And so you can't just assume a team that's, has some ability is just going to roll over, because they're probably not.
They're going to roll over.
Someone just pointed out, Eric Upchurch, that it is a 35-point spread. So yeah, my grasping at straws. Yeah,
they're absolutely going to roll over.
Okay. All right. I guess I've done my best.
Here's the pieces of the Indiana offense you need to know about. Jalen Lucas is their slot receiver / little running back / kick return. He is a fun little bug who's difficult to tackle, and you're gonna have to track him down in space and get a couple friends to help you. Cam Camper is the receiver outside. He's a go up and get it kind of. We've seen other receivers who are pretty good. I think Will Johnson's been pretty much locking guys down, but throw the ball up to him and let him try to catch it in single coverage. He might be able to pull a couple of those off. And finally, running back Christian Turner. If anyone remembers that guy?
Yeah,
in Michigan. He has not had a fumble since he left Michigan.
Yeah, is that right? Good for him. I got a couple questions for you guys. I mean, first, it looks like Will Johnson is back from whatever injuries he had. I thought, obviously he had a big game this week, but what about Rod Moore? Does he look right to you?
Yeah.
And the same.
Yeah, you can't really see the safeties. And they were trying to get Keon Sapp a lot of reps. I think that they want him to be ready for the back half of the season. So they've been working him in. They let Makari Page play a little bit of slot this game. And really Rod Moore's job was just going to be over. You see him in the highlights when Will Johnson makes the interception. Rod's the one that they asked to get all the way across the field and get into a cover 2 zone on top of the guy that Will Johnson was coming off of. He does make one good old fashioned Rod Moore play in this game. It was it's set up like a 4th and 2, and you thought that they were about to make you thought they were about to get the first down easily, and he just shoots down, wraps the guy up in the backfield. There's no yak. It was classic Rod Moore. Now, they're not throwing anywhere near him, so he has no opportunities to pick things off. But like he's back there.
Yeah, I think you just highlighted something that I think is really, really good to see, and that is just how locked in to their assignments they are. Because this was a game where you just weren't going to get a lot of tests. There was the one breakdown toward the end of the half where guys kind of they let one get by them, but that first play, I mean, he and Will Johnson being on the absolute same page. They were both reading number 2. They were both reading the slot on that play. If the slot goes vertical, then it's quarters, and Rod Moore takes him down the field. If he cuts short, then it's cover 2, and Will jumps it, and Rod gets over the top. And what did Rod do? Like, he knew exactly what to do in that instance, and you saw that throughout the game. But for maybe that play before the half where they let, like I said, let one get by them, but you like to see that kind of precision in the secondary. So from that standpoint, it really feels like the rust is kind of wearing off. We'll have to wait to see Rod in some actual coverage situations to really get a feel for physically if he is like all the way back. But I'm encouraged. This is where they are. This is their preseason for he and Will right there. I said this last week. Where the other guys were in game 3 and 4, that's where, Rod and Will are right now. This is both their third game back, so they should be rounded in form.
What about Mikey, Seth? I mean, last year he looked not much different than Dax Hill. This year, I don't know if he's injured or down a bit. I mean, what's your impression there?
He's not a linebacker. So, like, he was one of the guys who was not there when I was talking about the defensive tackles not having any help, because what they were doing, they run a tight end one way and then they run a receiver the other way, and that flips your responsibility. So the guy who was over the receiver now has a tight end and vice versa. And by doing that, they basically turn your nickel into a linebacker and your weak side linebacker into a slot. So when he was put in that position, he was, he's very Peppers-like. I'm like, where he's just like he's too small. He's going to hang back and just try to and wait for his opportunity instead of just shooting in there and trying to be physical, which is what he should do. He's not, he's 5'10", 182. He's not going to be a linebacker. I mean, that's really the only hole I saw. There was one where they kind of crossed him up on a slant, and then the ball might have been tipped at the line, or it was just they couldn't throw it because Rashawn Benny just had his hand right in the way of the throw. But if they had better protection, then he might have gotten hit by a slant again. But that happens to anybody. If you're in man coverage and you don't have help inside, you're going to get hit by a slant. That was really it. The touchdown, it goes inside. It's a really great catch by Daniel Jackson. And I thought Brian and I were disagreeing on this. I thought that Keon Sabb was supposed to get on top of that he has no other guys below him, that he turns his hips really late, and you want to see the safety with helping on anything inside. Would he have gotten there? I don't know. The ball came down very vertically. It was like a well-thrown ball. It was a great catch falling down. Sainer still is only a few yards away from the sideline there. So it could have it was. I gave a negative to both of them. I decided.
It's a negative to both. They were in covers, and the tight end motions to the boundary. So Keon is free to get over the top at that point. Should have been there to help, but at the same time, with 13 seconds left, you can't bite on a double move. Right? Let them catch it in front of you. They don't have any timeouts. Let them catch it in front of you. So that to me, they're asking Mikey to do more. Like, Mikey's playing corner. He's playing some corner this year, and that's a bit of an adjustment. And I think it's you see some growing pains there a little bit, but I think it's one of those deals where the more reps he gets in that capacity, the better he'll be at it. And I don't anticipate you seeing him make a mistake like that again. And at the same time, Keon Sabb, that was a very valuable snap for him as well. That was maybe the one occasion where it's either situational awareness or coverage responsibility, where you could look at it and say, both of those things weren't the best for the defense in this game, but then they come out in the second half and they don't give up a single reception. I mean, they get one reception, but it was the Keon Sabb. There you go.
Yeah. And I guess I have a question for Brian too. I mean, I mean, do you have a concern on the offense? Because as I'm looking at it, I say, what's the problem here? I mean, do you see something that says that's just bugging you or really saying to you, this could be a problem going forward? I mean, take injuries out of the equation, of course.
Well, no, I mean, like the resolving the offensive line in a satisfactory way. I thought Henderson had a very good game. I don't think he had a pass pro issue the whole game. There was a corner blitz, but I didn't think he had a real chance of dealing with that after they did an ID at pre-snap. Everything else was good. I mean, the one thing you kind of wonder about is like, is this team going to be able to pass protect against really high-end opponents? Because we haven't really seen any, and the protection's been very good, but there is sort of a situation where a guy like Shop Robinson might go up against a Barnhart or a Henderson and just be getting through too much for the offense to be truly efficient. But that's like, I think Roman Wilson has proven that he's a legit number one receiver. I think Barner and Bredesen have far exceeded expectations. I think JJ's in the running for best quarterback in the country, and all that feels real sustainable. So, to me, there's just not a whole lot of worry there. And you look at when things break down in this game, and a lot of it is just dropped passes, which hasn't been a problem so far this year. I think JJ is still in the top 5 or top 10 in terms of Power 5 quarterbacks having a drop rate. So hands for the receivers are not really a question, especially because we've seen these guys for multiple years, right? It's not like we're confused about whether these guys can catch the ball. So the answer is really no. Like, this is the best offense of Harbaugh's career at Michigan. And when they're going to be asked to do things in the fourth quarter, I think they'll be able to do them.
That's terrible news for Michigan fans because as a true Michigan fan, I like to worry. Right. I'm always trying to figure out things to worry about.
I'd love to get a Donovan Edwards game because you saw the one play where like they it was just a dump down, right? And all of a sudden he just accelerates away from a guy and it's like, okay, you're dead, right? And he's so good at that, but we've seen him just running the plays as a running back, not necessarily like, doing anything wild as a running back yet. He hasn't been adding a lot more than what the blocking's getting him in that. And we haven't seen him just like get matched up on a guy and just toast him. Like the things that we were excited to see Edwards do. And I'm guessing we're not going to get another year of Edwards because the NFL loves the things that he can do. I feel like we're getting like the low end of the expectations for that.
It'd be interesting to see what he's thinking based on how I think he was thinking that the production would be to a point where it would be more conducive to being a high draft pick. I don't know if that'll affect his thinking about whether to go or stay or not, but I think it's on the table. He only got 4 carries. He didn't get a lot of carries. I think Blake kind of led him in carries with 9. Wasn't a lot of touches from that standpoint to go around, but I still found it interesting again this week where it feels like more elements of Donovan in the passing game are being added. So in that pin and pull, they bubbled them, right? And so they were doing that. I'm trying to think of there were a couple of other pass plays where he was a target on as well. It just feels like they're adding to his receiver package.
He had a drop in the flat, and I thought JJ. I don't know what Brian graded that yet, but I thought JJ put it right where it needed to be, and like he could have caught that and kept running with it.
It was a touch low, but yeah, I kind of agree.
Yeah. So like there was another opportunity, right? And that's the kind of thing that's supposed to be so devastating. It's like you get this guy free in the flat. It's not like it's a tight end who's going to catch the ball, turn around, and maybe get 2 yards. This guy could round you, right? And if you got a linebacker on him in that situation, he could turn the corner and create a lot of damage downfield.
But you're absolutely right, Craig. Seth, with what you said. I should say I agree. It'd be nice to see a game where he's able to just go off and have a big play. All the 2 other backs have both had big plays, right? Yeah. To kind of get them feeling really, really good and maybe put a little thinking, a little thought in the heads of the defense. So I want to see Donovan get some of that. No better time than the present. I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk a little hockey as the season is upon us. Our Alejandro came right back from Minnesota and was out at Yo. So let's think broadly here, because we will talk more specifically in the weeks to come. But broadly, Brian, your expectations for this hockey season for the Maize and Blue.
I mean, they should be able to get back to the tournament. They have a lot of talent. They have questions in goal. They brought in Canisius transfer, and Noah West is also competing for the job. And they lost Ethan Edwards for the first half of the season to an injury, and that's a big loss for them because in terms of offensive defensemen, they have Seamus Casey, who's fantastic, but their decor is a little less dynamic this year than it has been in previous years. So I think it'd be a little bit much to expect a conference championship because now Michigan State is good again for the first time in like 20 years. So this makes the conference even more brutal. I think Ohio State's probably going to take a step back. Wisconsin is still building, but you're not really having a whole lot of days off in the conference schedule. So there's going to be some ups and downs. I think the most important thing for Michigan is that Frank Nazar is back to where he was when he was a top 10 draft pick. We saw him late last year. He flashed a couple of things, but he wasn't like consistently dominant shift to shift. And he's their number one center. He's the guy stepping into Fantilli's shoes, and he's the guy you really need to click.
Yeah, I was at both games. I was a little more negative than others. I know Brian and David Nasternak and Alex Drain were all happy, I think, in the big picture with Michigan's play this weekend. I was concerned because one, they didn't seem to really have a third good defensive pairing, and now that's even more problematic with Tyler Duke getting hurt on Saturday. And I don't know how bad his injury is, but if his injury puts him on the sideline for a while, you're sort of left with three good defensemen, and that's it. And so that's really a problem. Now maybe he's going to be okay, but Alejandro said he was in a walking boot this week, so I'm worried there. Second thing, I didn't see outstanding goalkeeping play this weekend. I mean, it wasn't terrible. I thought Barczewski was okay on Saturday night, but he wasn't outstanding in my opinion. And so I'm worried about that part of it. The most problemsome thing for me was that they were terrible on the penalty kill. They gave up 5 goals on 9 power plays, and that's beyond awful. Now limited data points, I know. Plus their power play didn't look particularly great. They scored twice in 9 attempts, but those were both on 2-man advantages, and so. While I know inside of the program they're really happy and they feel that Providence was a really good team. They're certainly a big team. They had a 6'7", 240 defenseman, and they did seem like a pretty competent team. But I was a little worried coming out of the weekend.
To the just to add to your, the problems with the penalty kill, the 6-on-5 was the same problem.
Yeah.
And at the very, they're up 5-1, and all of a sudden it's a 5-4 game because they could not get the puck back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's some of the speed on defense they've lost, or some of the speed in the forwards that they've lost by going kind of grittier. But that was a little bit of a concern. And can we talk to somebody about figuring out how to schedule these games not at the same time as football games?
Well, that's completely maddening. It's completely maddening that they put this hockey game at the same time as the Minnesota football game.
And we have a home game against Ohio State at the same time we're playing Michigan State. Football's playing Michigan State on the road. There should be some wiggle room. I think most of the fans would be okay with moving the game to like the middle of the day if we're going to be playing a night. If football's playing a night game, be cognizant of the fact that these are your fans.
There's no way that game can't be moved to 4 o'clock. Or 4:30 even, so that people can get back and watch and see the football game. Instead, what you had this last weekend was, on the opening night against a good team, Providence, they were like 2/3 full. So they and so hockey takes the brunt of that, and there's no reason why that game couldn't have been played, I don't know, Thursday, Friday.
I mean, I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's just they don't care. But you got to realize the fans care and the players care. The players don't want to play their opener in front of 2/3. They don't want to play against Ohio State without their fans there. It's ridiculous.
Also in the fact that it doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of institutional caring about this is that most of the first period was not even streamed. Like I pay $80 a year for Big Ten Network Plus, specifically so I can see Michigan hockey games, and the product is awful.
Yeah, it's garbage.
The product is awful. Like even when they got the stream, there was no score bug, so you didn't know what time was. You didn't know the score. You had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
So it's been a consistently embarrassing product, and I have no hope that it will ever change. But I get to complain about it on the radio every once in a while.
Right. All right. That is going to wrap it up for us. On our way out, we are going to be on the corner of Main and Snyder, who wants to join us inside the Bud Light Victor's Lounge. We do the Keep Man Countdown to Kickoff. All you got to do is be caller number 734-998-1050. Again, 734-998-1050. The food this week, courtesy of Knights. Going to be a great spread, courtesy of Knights. The drinks, courtesy of our friends at Bud Light. You are in charge of the atmosphere. All you got to do is be caller number 7 at 734-998-1050. And you and a guest will join us inside the Bud Light Victor's Lounge. That is going to do it for us here.